All right. Well, welcome to PoliTalks with Aurora and Emma. Take 2, the real one.
The real one.
So let's get right into it. My name's Aurora, and that's Emma. Can you give yourself a little introduction?
So I'm Emma O'Donnell, 5th year here at Iona. Well, actually, that's not true. 5th year in college. A senior, super senior, if you will, a political science major. Originally was a bio major, and then got to a point in my life where I felt like politics could no longer be ignored. And I really felt pulled to learn as much as I could about them. That may have had something to do with Donald Trump being elected president during my freshman year of college. But who knows? So I'll graduate as a poli-sci major, a bio minor, and my plan is to go to law school next August. So knock on wood that happens. Other than that, I played soccer here for one very short season, my freshman year. I am in the honors program. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm very smart, but I guess you'll find out soon. And something that I think super important for this podcast in particular is that I am not a Republican and I am not a Democrat. I don't think political parties are doing this country any good right now, and that's a topic for another day. But yeah,
should be a topic for another day.
Yes.
Well, I'm Aurora. I'm a senior here at Iona. I also used to be a bio major, but now I'm a political science major. Just because when I started taking the classes, I just immediately really liked it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like my backstory isn't as interesting as yours, honestly. I don't know.
I mean,
also economics minor. I don't know. Maybe that's interesting.
That is interesting and important.
Yeah. But yeah, so pretty much we wanted to start this show just because we think that we have a not unique view on everything, but we can give some sort of like our views aren't black and white, you know?
Absolutely.
That's what's important.
We go into politics with kind of a very open-minded take. Yeah. And we really try not to bring the bias of either the left side or the right side into the ways we think. Mm-hmm. Honestly, me and Aurora became friends 2 years ago. And in those 2 years, I have watched her really switch a lot of her views, and she has watched me switch a lot of my views.
Yeah.
Almost definitely. In opposite directions as well. So it's been like very interesting to see us kind of totally change. And if you ask my grandpa, college turned me into a liberal, but I wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't say you're a liberal.
No, I just think in the year 2020, there's just so many different things that have become political. And so Aurora and I try to just go into a very open mind with all of these things, and just wanted to kind of have a casual platform to discuss some of the things that maybe doesn't get the headlines.
Yeah, definitely. Well, do you want to start or should I start?
I think you should start.
All right. Well, the first thing I want to talk about is something that actually has been in the headlines, but Daniel Prude, one of the latest victims of police.
Rochester?
Yep, Rochester, yes. I wanted to read the story to you, the story of what happened that night, and I want to hear your reaction to it. I thought it was very interesting.
Where is this story coming from? Do you have a source?
This is like something that I saw on Instagram, and it's like this sounds like childish, but it's like a little cartoon, and it like has a story.
Okay.
It's on the Instagram account, Shit You Should Care About. That's what the Instagram account's called.
Honestly, in today's day and age, sometimes it's better to just read as much as you can. And Instagram, I don't know. I don't have one anymore, but sometimes it does better than the news.
This is the story. In the early hours of March 23rd, 2020, Daniel Prude's brother, Joe, called the police as Daniel was showing acute mental health problems. The day before, after acting erratically, Daniel received a mental health evaluation at Strong Memorial Hospital and was released that night. When officers arrived, Daniel was naked running through the streets. Police claim Daniel had broken store windows before they encountered him. One officer approached Daniel, pointing a taser at him while ordering him to get on the ground. Daniel complied and was then asked by the officer to put his hands behind his back, to which he complied. He was then handcuffed. Suddenly, Daniel became agitated, spitting at the officers and alternately asking for money or a gun. One of the officers claimed that Daniel told them that he had coronavirus, so they placed a spit hood over his head. Daniel attempted to stand up before being pushed over by the officers. They then forcibly held him down for approximately 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Officer Mark Vallon used his body weight and both hands to press the side of Daniel's head into the pavement. Officer Troy Talladay applied his knee to Daniel's back while officers held his legs. Daniel cried out, "You're trying to kill me," before his cries turned into muffled gasps. As one of the officers released his hold, he said to Daniel, "You good now?" One officer remarked that Daniel had been vomiting. He did not respond. He was later declared brain dead. He was taken off life support a week after the arrest on March 30th. The autopsy ruled that Daniel's death had been a homicide and also included contributing factors to his death as excited delirium and acute intoxication by PCP. Daniel's death is currently under investigation. And why it's been in headlines lately, obviously, is because the video of them with the one officer's knee on his head came out. And it's like very hard to watch because I feel like also spit hoods came to like light because I did not know that that was a thing.
I never knew that that existed.
I did not either. It's crazy.
I mean, I have probably 3 main points. Maybe it will end up being more just after hearing you read that.
Yeah.
First of all, I think it's crazy that we didn't hear about this more when it actually happened.
Yeah.
It took
that was my thought
very
too.
long for
that
this
was in March.
Yeah, that was in March, and now it's September.
Yeah.
And this came out maybe a week ago?
Yeah.
So first of all, I think that's absolutely crazy. The other thing that I think is just super important about this whole story to like really be discussed and even make its way to like the forefront of a lot of people's minds is mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Mental health, obviously, we have begun to pay much more attention to it as a nation, as a world, and that's great. We've seen a lot of positive change. However, I don't think we've discussed it from this standpoint of how the police are supposed to handle it.
Yeah.
And so I think there's 2 ways you can look at this, but regardless of how you look at it, you can't help but feel like the police acted too aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think that really it all comes down to education. How aware was Daniel Prude's family of his mental illness? How aware are police officers of handling people with mental illness?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's hard to see this any other way right now, that the aggression from the police, it has to calm down or at least be taken care of. And so then my third point is the spit hood. And so I feel like I have heard at least 3 different stories. That first, the brother said he had coronavirus. Now people are saying he said he had coronavirus. And then some people said that
I've heard
they just assumed he was sick.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess in the very weird pandemic world we're living in, you are going to take further precaution to like make sure germs aren't spread. But like Aurora said, I didn't even know what a spit hood was.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if that's the answer.
Yeah.
I
feel like if you're a cop, a part of you being a cop is committing to, I might go on a call and this person might have coronavirus. Like that kind of has to be in the back of your head, you know?
Absolutely. And the other thing to go off of that point, the people who are working in ambulances, and I'm sure police officers, like I'm from Long Island, we got hit pretty hard with coronavirus. My dad's a doctor. Like I've been hearing stories for months now. Everyone has, but my dad has seen it firsthand. When these EMT workers and these police officers are responding to calls of people not being able to breathe, like they literally are being rushed to the hospital because of corona, they're not throwing spit hoods on these people.
Exactly. That was a good point.
So, I mean, it's hard.
Well, I feel like me personally, when people first started saying defund the police, I like really did not understand or like get why people would be saying that. But I feel like this whole story and this whole event is kind of like moving when you think about defund the police, because this is exactly what people are talking about, because the police in so many different instances don't know how to respond to issues like this with mental health. And it just goes to show that the money going towards police departments should be allocated to other things that deal with mental health,
Absolutely.
drug violence, drug abuse. Like, there should be other resources.
Absolutely.
And I feel like this story really just captures how important that is. That it's just kind of, when you think about it, it's just kind of weird that police are responding to mental health distress in that way.
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, to kind of go back on your thoughts around defund the police, I mean, it's hard to talk about this topic right now because it is just so controversial. But
Yeah.
when I first was hearing about it, I was like, how do you have a country, especially a country this big, without a police force? You have to find a way to maintain order. However, as I continue to read more about it, defund the police, for me personally, does not mean getting rid of the police.
Oh, it doesn't at all.
We need
That's not just you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need police. I think most people can agree with that. There has to be a way to maintain order. However, the budget that most police precincts or departments have, that money needs to be used differently for more education, for more training. And as Aurora said, maybe it should be lessened and put in other places. Like, our whole country needs to be educated more on mental health. Our whole country needs to be educated more on racism and the past history that has led to the climate. And so I think that it shouldn't necessarily be defund the police, but rather reevaluate the budget of the police.
Put that money into other resources.
Yes.
And take the burden off of the police.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Yeah. Like, maybe it shouldn't be up to police officers to respond to mental health calls. But right now it is.
It is. Yeah.
And so they aren't handling it correctly. No one should ever die because of a mental illness.
Yeah. By the police.
So, I mean, it's just... there's a lot of stuff right now that just needs to be rethought out, replanned, redistributed. And this is a hard one to not ignore. I mean, you can't...
Brings light to it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on. We're really going to have a light and airy day today because our next topic is Chinese detention centers.
Or as they like to call it, vocational education centers.
So going around social media, there's been a lot of information coming up about these Chinese detention centers. But with literally just the slightest bit of research, I think that you could agree with me that these are concentration camps. And the stories that have been coming out from them this week are atrocious. Absolutely horrible. Let me just pull up my trusty phone.
Just to go off of that as well, these camps, whatever type of camps you would like to call them, I will call them concentration camps.
Yes.
We have not heard a lot about them, I would say, as much as they should be being talked about. I don't think they are.
Oh, everything that I've been hearing recently has not been from the news.
Exactly.
No media outlet. It's been social media.
And for some reason, I mean, me and Aurora are going to try to get to the bottom of this. The American government is trying to ignore this. And it just seems a little suspicious to me as to why. I mean, I understand it's not our problem. It's in China.
I think that it's not really... Well, it is definitely an ignoring, but there's kind of the purpose behind it of, are we really going to start more issues with China? I think that's the reasoning behind it. I mean, it's not a good reason, but I think that's the reasoning.
I mean, I think you're totally correct. We have economical ties to China. We're having issues with China. But I do still find it just a little bit weird that really no news outlets are discussing this, and you normally just don't find all sides of the news ignoring something.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read a little blurb from, this is an exclusive by Byline Times. I don't really know where that news outlet is out of, but that's what it's from, just to give you some, background. The situation is much, much worse than what is being reported. The Uyghur people have disappeared. Death is everywhere right now. These are the words of Dr. Erkan Siddiq, a Uyghur American who is the president of the Uyghur Projects Foundation and senior advisor to World Uyghur Congress. He claims that the total number of Uyghur detainees in camps in China and those presumed dead now exceeds the total number of Jews detained and killed during the Holocaust. So
that is blasphemous.
Yeah. An allegation that dwarfs previous reports on China's demographic genocide in Xinjiang, I think that's how you say it, or what was once East Turkestan. This isn't indoctrination, it's eradication. Siddiq believes that reports in the international media about the situation in Xinjiang are essentially too... Okay, well, that sentence ended and it just disappeared. But you get the point. It's obviously... Well, I mean, you can't really put sheer numbers on it, but obviously there's disgusting, horrible things going on. And it's crazy because the news and, I mean, most people don't even really know that this is happening.
No, and I was just going to say, just to clarify for people who don't know, because it's completely reasonable to have no idea what we're talking about right now, there are camps in China and they're taking this certain type of, it's a Muslim group called the Uyghurs, but it's spelled with a U. Maybe you've seen it and didn't know how to pronounce it. They're putting them in these camps, and they're saying that they, in one article by the Washington Post, the Chinese officials said that these are vocational education camps similar to those seen in the United States, Britain, and France. And I just have a hard time grasping that because I don't really know where we have these vocational education camps. But also they're taking strictly one religion and one group in that religion.
And
so it's
what's the reasoning behind
exactly
that?
They're saying their goal is to avoid extremism. That was what an official said earlier this week from China. Avoid extremism. It's just it's hard not to draw parallels to the Holocaust here, especially after that point Aurora made. It seems almost worse.
Why a lot of this is actually coming out right now too. Well, coming out. Is because there was a teacher there who taught Mandarin, but they pretty much escaped. And they were able to get out of China, and they're pretty much like recounting all the horrible things that happened. And some of the things in this article, like, I don't even want to repeat because they're atrocious. But she talks about how a lot of the students, you could physically tell that they were getting beaten, and that she could hear like screams in the facility. She could hear screams like.
So is it mostly, I don't even know, is it mostly school age, like children, or is it all ages?
No, it's all ages.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
And there's it's not like there's one facility, there's multiple facilities. So
yeah, in the Washington Post article I read, just to kind of put a number in your mind, it's thought that there's over 1 million people in these camps.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to talk about, but I think it's important to talk about because there's like literally genocide going on as we speak in one of the most powerful countries in the world, and nobody talks about it.
Exactly. And unfortunately, there are horrible things that go on in countries all of the time. Like the Rwandan genocide we didn't know about until after it was already over. But what makes this different is that it's in China. And yes, we don't know half of what goes on in China, I think personally, but we do know that this is happening. It's not some like lie someone spread. This is really happening. And like Aurora said, China is very quickly becoming the most powerful, if
Mhm.
definitely one of the most powerful countries in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And I just wish that there would be some action or more people who had more of a voice would speak up about these things and bring more attention to it because it's horrible.
It is. It's horrible. And
Yeah.
to kind of parallel, I mean, not parallel, but just right now, racism in our country is obviously at an all-time high. Like we're going through it right now.
Mhm.
But it really, this sort of bias and this idea that one type of person is better than the other, like, really exists everywhere, and it drives people to do absolutely horrible things.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, that's
Just to keep it
that's
light and
my
airy.
topics for the day.
Welcome
Real
to day one.
fun, light and airy stuff. So, you got anything?
Well, I think right now it's hard not to talk about the upcoming presidential election, boys and girls.
Yeah.
We are less than 2 months away from election day.
Yeah. Crazy.
And I don't think we need to really get into it so much today. It's something I want to probably read up a little more and discuss, but the horrific debate with the mail-in ballots.
Oh, yes.
My question is, if I'm going to the grocery store with my mask on, obviously, and I'm going and sitting outside at restaurants with my mask on, and I'm pretty much not returned completely to normal, but doing a lot of the things I do every day, why can I not put my mask on and just head over to the poll?
I really couldn't tell you that, but I can tell you from what I've been hearing is that there has been like an unprecedented amount of people requesting the mail-in ballots. So definitely for a lot of people, they don't want to go, which I honestly don't understand why.
That's the thing I'm having a hard time understanding. I get it. Coronavirus is real. It is done its damage.
Yeah,
it is still
we are not
doing. I am not saying that coronavirus is
Look
not
at
real.
us.
It is real. Look at us. But what I'm saying is, from just living my life every day, a lot of people we've returned to leaving our homes and wearing our masks, and when you get back in your car, you put your hand sanitizer on. And so I get it. The older population probably wants to get their mail-in ballots, and I'm sure some high-risk people want a mail-in ballot. So I understand. What I'm not understanding, though, is like how big of a deal it has become, because people have been requesting mail-in ballots for all of history, I believe. And I understand it's probably a larger number, but like, why not just promote safe voting in polls?
Yeah.
Just as we've promoted safe grocery shopping, safe schooling.
We talked about this a little bit before, but I voted in the Democratic primaries, 3 months ago, when everything was much worse. And I still went to the Democratic primaries and voted. And it was very separated. Like, I wasn't worried to be there. Like, it was fine. And I don't know. I didn't really hear about the mail-in ballot being a problem then, you know?
Yeah,
so that's a little odd to me too, and I don't see why. I don't know. I agree with you.
Yeah, like I said, I want to talk about this again because I think it's something that is all over the place right now. But I just can't help but feel like I don't even know if the issue was started by the Republicans or by the Democrats, because it just seems like on both sides it's just like a controversy.
Yeah.
Like, should we, shouldn't we? Are we capable? Are we not capable? And so, like I said, I'm going to read up on it and I want to discuss it more with you.
Yeah, I think we should.
But it's just confusing me a little bit from so many different aspects.
I understand why it's a big deal, because I've definitely heard that huge amounts of people are requesting the mail-in ballot, and I heard that the election might be usually the election would come in whenever, but it's supposed to come in. All of the votes might not be counted for 3 or 4 days after because of the mail-in ballots, and because some states have to wait until election day to actually count every single ballot.
Right. And
so it might take like 3 days to
and
know who the president
I
is.
understand that frustration, and I'm sure people are like, "Oh, we've never had to do this before." And like I said before, I understand the mail-in ballots. I understand some people aren't going to want to go to polls. I get it. But I think maybe personally I'm more interested in like the controversy that has become mail-in ballots, and so I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand what it's driven by.
Yeah.
And then
I don't get it either, so I can't really answer your question.
Exactly.
We're going to have to do some research.
We are. We're going to have to look into that. I mean, other than that, in case you couldn't tell, me and Aurora could go on for hours.
Pretty much.
But I think this is the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.
We'll see you next week. I think we did a wonderful